Hey everybody, welcome back to Mike Lewis Gaming. I'm of course Mike, and this is our lake camp, or camp lake, whatever you want to call it. I just got confused. Our camp lake board. It is two 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 inch XPS foam boards, and we will be using it for horror games, such as our slasher game that we have. We'll be using it for Marvel, for The Walking Dead, for our own zombie game. Could also use it for high fantasy as a little trader town. Stuff like that. The reason we're not using the cork board like we did with the town is because I want to have themed builds. And part of that is going to be the material we use. The cork board is going to be for our town builds. We're going to expand on the town, add a bunch of new POIs, stuff like that. This XPS build here, we are going to add forest terrains, hills, swamps, rivers. Eventually a lake that's actually made out of resin, which was the original plan for this build, but that didn't happen. The cabins I'm pointing at right now are from Blacksite Studios, as well as the message board, the campfire, and the fencing. The laser cut 3 buildings, the ruined one, the workshed, and the administrative building are all laser cut by me. There is Mad Max's Interceptor, there is the Supernatural car, and there's a burnt up car, which I'm going to touch up better. I just painted it black because it worked for me. But we're going to make it look prettier since it's going to be on camera more often. There we're going to put a hill. That's what I'm doing with that. I'm not just tapping it. And then the lake you can see the outline of. I was planning on just cutting down so far in like an inch or so, which is what I'm showing you here. It doesn't work out very well. I end up giving up, taking it outside, and just cutting it straight through. I have a hot wire rod, I guess you could say. It's not wire, it's just literally just a metal rod that heats up you can cut through foam with. Wasn't working to cut angles, so I need to get some better tools, but we'll get there. I have the resin, it's not going anywhere. We'll use it. I think we're going to use it on the swamps first, and not a big lake like this. I think we're going to do a swamp setup next. It'll be connected to this build here. We'll be able to put it down next to it, play on them independently. Both of these can be played independently. Look really nice together. I have them set up in front of me right now on my gaming table with the town board off in the corner over there, looking very, very nice too. Very proud of what we're doing. I know there's better on YouTube, but I like what we're doing. But yeah, we're going to use this, like I said, for our playtesting for the system we're coming up with now, which we're getting pretty decently far in with the rules. We have a high fantasy one I've been working on called Atlantis Corrupted, which I haven't built anything for yet, but that's me checking the bottom because at this point I'm still determined to do a resin pour. And as we all know, because of spoilers, because you know voiceover Mike is in the future, that doesn't work out. But Atlantis Corrupted is going to be the name of the high fantasy game that we're going to be coming out with. You guys will be seeing more of that in the coming weeks. And we're going to be doing a zombie game also. So this board will probably be used in probably both of them. This board would be usable in both settings, I believe. The cabins aren't too modern to where you'd suspend disbelief. The only one that may be a little out of the realm of high fantasy is the administrative building, but call that a really nice merchant house, or maybe even the nobleman or the town center or something like that, where they took more care in their precision of making it and whatnot. XPS foam is actually a lot easier to work with than I am showing in this video. So if you want to get into it, don't be discouraged by Screwdriver Mike here. Just make sure you have the proper tools. Like I have a lot of nice paints, I have a lot of nice minis, terrain, 3D printer, laser engraver, I have all those cool tools, but I've never messed with foam before. So I kind of went in this a little bit underprepared for what I was attempting to do. There's me angry, and now we have the lake cutout, cardboard backing, and the resin pour is pretty much out of my head at this point, but I'm still hoping maybe with enough. Uh, I use plaster of Paris and not Sculptamold because I can get plaster of Paris here where I live. I live in a county of 30,000 total people, so we don't really have game shops that sell Sculptamold and stuff like that. So we do have Lowe's and Home Depot and Aces. So yeah, I can get plaster of Paris pretty easily. I cannot get Sculptamold without ordering it, and that's just a lot more expensive. And eventually I'll get it, but now the way I do the plaster of Paris is pretty much the same way you want consistency when you do Sculptamold. More like a little bit runny pudding, basically. That way you can mold with it still, and as it dries, and it dries really quick. I don't know how Sculptamold does, but this stuff dries in like 20 minutes tops. And you can start sanding it if you want to. But if you take your time, this is sped up 2 times fast. All the crafting scenes are. It's painting too. Um, so it still doesn't take long. If the whole video is 25 minutes, you double that. And I did do work off camera, but probably only a third of the video. So you're looking at like 2 hours of work if you sit down with a plan and the materials. That's about how long this takes. Really excited with how it turned out. I was going to use flocking. As you see, I choose not to. The flocking I have is more plasticky than what the people online describe, but it's a diorama, like a model train diorama or a little house diorama flocking. It's not Gamer Scenic or anything like that, so I'm going to get Gamer Scenic eventually, and then I'll start flocking again. Just isn't great. It looks good, but if you start putting things on it, even with the amount of glue I use, which if you watch that video was a lot, it just doesn't do what I wanted. So we're going to get some Gaming Scenic flocking in here. And in the future, I'm going to edit out all of the mixing and stuff like that. Especially after the first few, when you see me do the same things. I'll go over what it is, like plaster of Paris, what paints I'm using, stuff like that when I'm doing the voiceover, but I'm going to not show me spreading it out over a 2-foot board. Because even sped up, I mean, at this point I'm doing the exact same thing I did in the lake itself. That lake, though, is like 18 inches by 13 or something like that. It doesn't look huge, but it's pretty good size. So I think I'm going to fill it with silicone that you use for like bathtubs and whatnot. That way I can put boats and stuff on top of it. But right now you can actually set a mini down inside of it. It's kind of cool looking. I like it. I think it turned out really well. And again, when things don't go your way when you're crafting, you just have to adjust. Don't get discouraged. Don't quit. Like this board was just up. This particular board. The second board was a lot well, technically the first board was a lot easier. Because the entrance is on the other board. This is the lake itself. It came together much smoother. And if you look in the lake itself, you can see I tried to do some textures with my fingers to make it look more like a lake bottom. There's me taking off the right glove, putting down the buildings and the fences. You can see I changed the initial setup, and again, that's just part of the creative process for me. I know a lot of people can sketch out what they want, and that's exactly what they build. I am not one of those people. I'm one of those people that want to do things as it naturally progresses. I have a plan. I knew exactly what I wanted on each board, how I wanted it to look. But then I moved, like the ruin building was moved to the other side of the fencing, kind of stopping you from getting to it unless you walk all the way around the lake. The work shed there. The cabin's pretty much in the same place it originally was. The rocks are both different. Obviously I moved the fencing for the ruined house, which for the horror games and stuff like that will be, where the slasher died at or whatever. We're going to be doing some playtesting with those, with the new system, which is a lot like our old system, which is for sale on Wargame Vault and Drive-Thru RPG. It's Violent Delights is right now what we have out. This is a more simple version, which will still be, well, actually a little bit more in depth tactically, just not as crunchy number-wise and stuff like that. But you'll see more of that as we play test it. I plan on doing all that on, not all of it, but showing the progress and everything on YouTube. We did a little null there. I was going to try to cut those steps in with the plaster of Paris, which I could have, but steps didn't make sense since it's just a very gradual rise. Like your minis tilt and stuff when you're going up and down it, but not to the point to where you needed steps to get to the top of it. So you can see me making sure I cover them up completely. It did kind of make a cool little terrain feature right there, to where it was popped up a little bit more. But that was just regular, what do you call it, school foam for kiddos. I can't remember the name of it. I remember, I'll say it later, but it's just a pack of foam you can buy at Walmart, Dollar Store, whatever. Kiddos make crafts with them in school. And that actually works really well for stacking. You PVA glue them together. That's what I did. PVA glue is actually really, really good. I know I said it in my last video, but you want a secure bond and you have the time to let it dry completely, PVA glue is the way to go. For this stuff, I won't use it for, like, construction shit, but for stuff like this, it's really, really good. I use that in hot glue more than what's it called? I have it right here. Elmer's Craft Bond, which is, Elmer's is just PVA with more sticky, I suppose would be the correct way to say it. But yeah, like this shot here where I'm just smoothing it all out and making, well, over there I'm not smoothing, I'm making like a rocky type texture right there because that's where the houses are going to be. That's why my hands keep bouncing up and down. I'm going to cut all this stuff out in future videos, just show you the beginning of it, then jump to it being done, show that off, explain what I'm doing next. And as builds get more complicated, showing every last second will be a lot harder overall. And it just be, I mean, if it's a huge build, then yeah, it's going to be multi-part videos, but like this shouldn't have been 2 videos. That's why I made it 1. It was 2 hours of work, give or take, total. Like I said, you double this, 50 minutes of camera time. Some of the stuff I did off camera, obviously, like cutting out the lake and whatnot. But the more complicated, bigger builds will get. You can see me rubbing some of those off to make stone things. I didn't want it over there because that's where the cars are going to be. Some of those textures turned out really, really well. I was very proud of it. But I've never, like I said in the town build, I've never built boards like this before. I've done terrain, scatter terrain stuff, but nothing like this. So I'm just kind of using what I've learned on YouTube over my years of being here and watching people. People like Tabletop Time and Jazza, Squidmire, all those guys doing really cool stuff. Black Magic Crafts, another one. I really, really learned a lot from watching him do stuff. You see me trying not to break down my rocks over there where I build them up with the plaster. And this stuff works really well, especially if you're just trying to stick down a nice ground texture. You see me just going over it slightly, yeah. Add some more texture. If I get texture rollers, you could do things like cobblestone and stuff like that with this. You can use spatulas to spread it out smoother. I just use my hands right now because when you get the nice undulations and stuff like that. I'm going to shove the pieces down. Some of them I had to pick back up because the contacts were pretty small. I think that cabin was one of them, and just glue it down after. They came out very, very solid though. That's on top of the null. That's the message board. I wanted it to be in a place that made sense. That worked for me. I like the tree. It turned out very well. That is all of it plastered. And I think this is the painting, beginning of the painting section now. Yeah, because I'm moving that board. I cleaned up my workstation, don't worry. It doesn't have all the plaster on it anymore. And now I'm just getting ready to paint. Like stuff like this. You guys don't need to see me just spread brown paint around. I can just explain what I'm going to do in future videos. But like I said, I'm learning. I thank you for your patience and watching. I really, really do appreciate it. A lot more work for these types of videos as opposed to like the 7 Days to Die series I'm doing on weekends. On Fridays, technically. I mean, those are just, you literally load OBS Studio, make sure your mic's set up, hit record, and you go. When you're done, you hit, stop. F9 for me, that's the hotkey I use for it. And it stops recording, and you're done. I mean, that's all there is to it. These, you got to put together, and it's not hard. There's nothing hard about what I'm doing. I'm getting to build things that are really cool and I love. That'll make the things I love doing even better. It's not difficult. Even learning the programs and stuff that I have to use to edit isn't difficult, so I'm not complaining. I don't want you to think I'm complaining about how hard I have it. But, it's more time consuming is what I was getting at before my little side rant of me not being a complainer. It does take a lot longer when you're editing and putting together a bunch of clips. And some of my cuts are really good, some are eh. But it'll probably always be like that because I don't want to be an editor. So I'll probably never have that great of a editing ability. But I'm getting better and better. I like it. Like I said, some of these were sped up, some of these weren't. It's kind of cool how you can do that. Kind of rambling about editing. You guys aren't here for editing. Blacksite Studios cabin right there in the forefront. Well, the fire pit, the camera died, so welcome to the cell phone camera. Forgot to turn it sideways, that's why it's up and down like that. The next time I use it, you can't tell. The camera just died on me, I have no idea why. But the Blacksite Studios stuff, that's their Camp Northwood kit. I don't think I filmed me painting the lake blue. That's okay. It's blue. I like it. It's a very pretty blue. But it's their Camp Northwood kit from Blacksite Studios. I'll link them in the description. And yeah, they very, very nice MDF kits. That come to you. You put them together. I think they use it for their horror game. What's it called? Don't Look Back. If I'm wrong, that's fine. I think it's called Don't Look Back. Haven't got to play it yet, but I did buy their Camp Northwood. I'll probably get more of their stuff in the future. They have a lot of MDF kits for modern, high fantasy, all kind of cool stuff. So, definitely check them out if you're into tabletop gaming, or if you're looking for modern. They have gas stations. I don't think they have a church. They might. I want a church. But I think the next big project, it's not going to be a big project, but next project to go along with these boards here, because as I mentioned, the corkboard, message board things are going to be for our town. Blackmagic Craft just did a diorama of the Evil Dead cabin, which I have Ash's character printed out, which is pretty cool, in the 40 mil scale that I play in, which is pretty much 28 mil, just supersized how everybody does these days. Bigger than WizKids and stuff like that, but everything's bigger than them at this point, scale-wise. But I want to do the Evil Dead cabin, so I'm thinking that's going to be our next crafting project. And I also have a birdhouse I would like to redo into a elf slash fairy slash fae type home. So yeah, they're probably going to have some of those coming up in the future for their crafting. Some more scatter terrain. There's both of them together. I leave them together this time. Inside the workbench is actually a bunch of Old West figures. Because me and my dad was going to play mini or Little Wars. I can't remember what the game is called, but we was going to play it. And we just never got to. Life gets in the way of having the fun you want to have a lot of the times. But me doing this now and making games and designing games, I'm going to have him and my niece help playtesting. He has the Star Wars Legion, which we're going to do some videos on here on the channel. And yeah, it'll be a good time. And I like playtesting with him and my niece and my daughter and my wife. Well, my brother when he comes down, but he lives far away from me, so we don't get to playtest as much as we would like. Because then you have different generations. You know, my dad's, older, obviously, than I am. I'm 43, my wife's 42, my daughter's 18. And, yeah, that got, I didn't cut the top off proper. Yeah, so this is me cutting stuff. Don't do this at home, kids. Yeah, that was a scalpel. Don't play with scalpels like that. Don't be like Mike. But then my niece is 10, about to be 11, so you get a pretty good age range to see how well your rules are written. Like Dad got me into tabletop gaming with the old Avalon Hill games and things like War and Peace, Squad Leader, Jutland, the micromanaging of an actual war, World War II, Third Reich, things like that's how I got into tabletop gaming. Then me and him and my cousin Jimmy played Heroes Quest, and that was my puppy hitting the camera. I'm a huge Conan the Barbarian fan, like the works of Robert E. Howard. He's my favorite author. So, yeah, Hero Quest was the first big inspiration for me. We played D&D for a while when I was younger, me and my wife and my brother Joshua. Brother-in-law Joshua. I say brother a lot with Dave. My brother-in-law Joshua. He liked being a rogue. But what we're building now is more closely akin to Heroes Quest than it is D&D. The games we have out are more in the middle-ish, so we're going to go with more of a old school, buy your character, you get these items to start with, you can increase their rarity, and yeah, it'll be a lot more streamlined, just as many options for the weapons, because you can find all kind of shit in the cards and your loot. And the merchants will sell stuff. And this here will be able to be used for, like I said, zombies. And you can come here to raid. You can have this as a settlement. You can have this as, the home of the slasher. You can have it for a battleground for superheroes. You can do all kind of cool things with this right here. So I'm really excited to see that come to fruition. That's how you say that word, right? I don't know. I'm American. It doesn't matter. We don't say any words right here. Not only am I American, I'm a country American, so that's even worse. I don't say crick, though. I say creek. Anyway, coming up on the ending here, it'll have the little pan over after everything's dry. I gotta go around, shut my computer there. That is a MSI. Spot has a dragon on it. The G.I. Joe Cobra symbol I put on, it's just a sticker. I bought one of their toys and it came with it, so I put it on my computer. A HISS tank, in case you're wondering. And yes, I just bought that like a year, 2 years ago. I love my G.I. Joes. Eventually I'll do a series on those too. I think I said that before, but it's okay. And yeah, I was going to do stippling, I still might. I don't do it for this video. Over the grass to make it look more varied, but this is supposed to be for gameplay. It's not supposed to be anything crazy. And here's the grand reveals. Look at that. Turned out really nice, I think. This is back to cell phone. Well, cell phone's been used interchangeably with the camera. You can't really tell the difference unless I point it out or it's the narrow thing. But look how nice. Doesn't that look nice? It looks like a badass play table to me.